Anybody call that?
Michelle,
Is any time?
she's here.
Mailboxes. That's they're shocking orange, and they're all on the nature trails. Look at that.
And then this is, that's what I was saying, schedule. And that's probably the last. Right, school principals do, it's neither.
You're the right direction, that's right.
Jeff is here.
He's covered there.
That's right. It's all over the world.
I always like to have a easy there. How are you?
How are you?
Great.
For your fantastic.
Yeah, my glasses of wine.
I love the donuts. He might be to his house eventually. Morning,
But it's never, it's maybe a person, how are you? Good, how are you?
He was funny there.
Oh, good, I miss you. Doing your girl, how's everybody? Doing good. And good. I can tell them. And I showed, oh, I'm coming in to really go to the. I guess But I think they are.
John was super nice. That monkey is.
Oh, that's it.
I went to his house and he's he goes, I'm kind of, you go right up to that spot, on there, I'll see. There was a stage where it's called New York City. He was really, at least interesting. Interesting.
Yeah, I do all the time, but you know, that she's. Okay, well, there's a video, actually, I think that like. Right, you guys, when you get it, yeah, that's why you got new ones different types.
Where was it? At the house. We did shoot. I read.
Thank you. Did they grab? Wow, my friend, Jill, what's your email for this? I'm trying to get the agenda, they sent there, is it Jill? J. Because I got, you know, I got a. Okay.
So you saw a lot through there.
Yeah, I can look it up. Just give me this one. No, I guess I get
I haven't seen one yet this year. A couple of years ago.
I'm gonna wait for Barbara.
She's coming, or at least planning on it.
Yeah.
Or is it?
No, well, 3:28. You say that when you start early and you press the button on the microphone. That way, Michelle here, yeah, she's dialed into the. So I can press it, turn it on, hold it down.
Is Michelle here? Okay. Hi, everyone. We are the New Shore and Broadband Committee. Today is Thursday, December 2nd. It's 3:29 p.m. And let's start with public input. No? Okay, and then we want to approve the minutes of October 28th. I'll make a motion to approve them.
Second it.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Update on island-wide broadband construction and installation. A couple weeks ago after our last meeting, my husband ran into the fiber delivery truck down by the dump, and it was going to the north end. And today they were all over Lakeside Drive, so there's obviously activity going on.
He had an accident?
No, there's activity going on the island with Surtex.
You say he ran into the truck at the dump. I thought he-
No, sorry. Took a picture. Okay, so do you want to start, please?
And a lot of that big activity that you've seen over the last few days, and I think they'll continue into tomorrow, and then they'll be done with this portion, is installing the hub locations, which are sort of, I don't remember the dimensions, 36, roughly 36 by 40, I would say. Ground flush containers that will provide fiber connections. And so those are being installed around the island this week, and that's what they're working on over on Lakeside. In terms of residential or individual drops, they've now installed just under 500, 495 fiber drops have been completed. And we've got just over 1,400 applications that have been submitted. So they brought on another crew this week, which was to do the hub locations. And I think they will be able to keep that second crew busy as they move through the rest of the drops that need to be installed. And hopefully by that point, we'll have some additional releases through the CRMC, and Verizon is a little wishful thinking at this point, but maybe to keep that second crew busy as well. So in terms of updates along those lines, we do have the DEM permit that's been issued, which is great. We are in process with the CRMC permit. And then we are working with Verizon. We always knew that this would be a challenge, but we've got roughly half of those licenses in hand, and we're pushing them hard to schedule the work that needs to be done in order for the rest of the licenses to be released. And obviously, the utility district did all their work well in advance, so we greatly appreciate that. And Jeff's been really helpful in facilitating that process. But we do have that barrier that we need to wait for. Fiber cannot go on poles until that make-ready work has been completed and the licenses are issued. So,
Can I ask a question? You said there's 1,400 applications. Is that in total, or is it to go? You've done 500 drops, but is there 900 more to go, or is it?
they're not necessarily put in a fractional structure because some of those applications may be multiple drops on one
I see.
parcel.
Okay.
We're actually looking at by the end to have a number like that. That ultimately we connected 80%. It's actually probably going to be higher than that of the properties on Block Island.
Okay.
But 1,400 applications, unique applications is.
Mhm.
Are there still people
Excellent.
who haven't done it?
There are some.
I know one.
And if you know one, chase them down. We're close to the point now because we need to string together permissions to cross properties to get everyone where we are individually calling some people to encourage them to apply and to make sure that we can connect the neighbor who might be behind them.
Okay.
I have a question. Regarding the permitting of the poles, at the October 17th Town Council meeting, it was said, I believe it was Councilor Stover that elaborated on it, that Rhode Island had recently passed legislation to accelerate the permitting process. It was sort of like, I forget what the word was, but it was sort of a group thing or something where they were going to, it was supposed to enable the whole permitting process. This is what I gathered from the discussion at the council meeting. I don't know.
I was just talking about that Amy and her team were working on blanket permits.
Blanket,
With
yeah.
those entities, which was, as I understood it, a new thing for those agencies. And I think it's incredible that work's been done.
And so that's unique to the CRMC and the DEM applications, and both agencies, again, as Keith said, we're seeing something like this for the first time, where we were looking for a permit that encompassed the entirety of the island, and rather than a property by property application, which is how CRMC and DEM usually work. And so both of them were definitely willing to work with the town to create a process that enabled us to apply for all of the permits in a single application, which we really appreciate, and definitely streamline that process. I'm sure we laid some groundwork for other communities that may try to do that.
So has that happened, or is it about to happen?
No, that has happened with DEM. The permit has been issued. With CRMC, we have applied for the permit, and they are doing their internal review. And that's a little bit like any permit that an individual may secure, a little bit of an iterative process where they may issue comments, we respond, provide additional information, things like that. So.
Thank you.
Any other information on that?
What else do people want to know?
Well, I guess I know Christine and I and probably the other members, we kind of, because we've invited BIPCO here today, we're going to kind of get into that. But we want to understand the roles of Cropper, Surtex, Ocean, everything. And then how does that relate to BIPCO, and how we kind of talk about, teaming up with them going forward, or we wait, or what. That's kind of what we're trying to understand.
Might be helpful just to do a synopsis of a review of where we are as far as the operating contracts for Crocker and everybody, and then decide, how that could just give us background knowledge so that we understand where we have to go next.
Sure. And yes, thank you. The contracting update is the piece that I had forgotten. So the draft contract with Ocean is, I believe, going to the council on Monday night. Ocean is going to provide transport for us. So that's a little bit of a commodity. They're going to move
The internet.
move data on the mainland. Crocker, who's our ISP, our internet service provider, they're going to be sort of the front end feel. They're going to deal with customers. They're going to do billing. They're going to provide the internet actually at the point of delivery. That contract is underway.
That repairs, I'm sorry.
They do some repairs
Mhm.
and troubleshooting, if you will. It's more, most of the work they're going to do is going to be virtual.
Yep.
A lot of the more physical repairs are actually going to fall into the Certex side, which is the network operator contract. So that's going to be much more operation of the physical plant.
Mhm.
And so we are also in a draft contract with Certex for that network operator agreement. I think that may actually be wrapped up before the Crocker, but both are underway.
And how long do these contracts last for?
They have different terms, and I don't have them in front of me, so I'm not gonna quote them exactly. The Ocean, I believe, is a 5-year, roughly. Again, that's something that we may be able to go out to bid for again fairly soon and swap out another partner pretty easily. Crocker, we're still negotiating that term. Again, it's a long-term relationship. They are the face ultimately that the customer sees. And so we want that to meet our certain standards. At the same time, it can also be swapped out fairly easily in that ISPs are available. You know, we can go back out to bid and find another ISP pretty easily. The network operator is going to be the longest term of those contracts because that really takes the investment in the physical plant of Block Island, creating the infrastructure that allows them to be able to handle repairs and have the equipment to continually monitor and maintain the physical assets of the network. So that is probably going to be the Certex network operator, probably be the longest of the terms.
Okay.
There's one other that will come later, and it's a little bit distinct, and that's the Certex fiber maintenance. So it's a little bit different. Network operations gets to the running of the network, and then we will need an add-on piece that the poles go down and fiber needs to be restrung or things like that. Actual fiber repair.
So,
and that'll be a shorter one.
all right. So the question is, well, let me go back to the funding opportunities and wipe those out, and then let's get into the BIPCO piece so we don't keep everybody here too long. So as far as like USDA or NTIA or Emergency Connectivity Fund, I don't know if anything's really moving forward with that or any of them. And what's the status of the lobbyists that we've hired to work for the town in many areas, not just broadband?
I'll do the first piece and then kick it off, maybe to Mary Ann for the second piece. So USDA, we still have not heard on our application to Community Connect. The word is that announcement is coming shortly, but obviously has not been released. In the meantime, USDA has released another round or opened another round of that funding. So that question is out there for us right now, whether we invest in another round of application prior to hearing from the first. Obviously, there are a lot of dollars being announced or where programs are being developed for imminent grant openings. We're doing our best to keep track of all those. Manpower is definitely an issue at this point, but that's where we are. So, Mariana.
So just I just got a text message from Chris Elliott, who's with Senator Reed's office, and he asked me if we had heard anything yet regarding this meeting. And I said, no, we have not, so he said he would follow up for us at this point. And he also asked what he stated, are you aware that next round of grant application has opened up? The lobbyists are requesting for qualification schedules tomorrow, even one of them. So I have received 2 so far, I'm not sure who they are. And we'll see what happens once tomorrow afternoon.
Okay, good.
And there was another grant too. What about the, well, I guess is that part of the emergency connectivity fund? The USDA.
No, they're all a little different. And, you know, this is where I wish we did have more, more capacity to be pursuing these emergency connectivity. And a lot of the programs that have been released from the recent legislative actions are focused on individual household affordability. And that's an area that I feel like the town just hasn't had the opportunity to pay attention to, but will become really critical for the customers going forward. So if there were a gap that somebody wanted to step into, that would be a great one. That's what Emergency Connectivity Fund would address, would be individual affordability.
Would Heidi Tarbox be that person? Or no? We talked about this before.
I think at this point, Heidi's probably pretty well occupied with town level
Okay.
grant work, and especially with more coming down the line, you know, her attention is really there. In addition to the sort of more specialized nature of these kinds of connectivity programs. I'm not sure that Heidi would be our savior on that one.
Okay. Well, I know nothing about grants. I mean, I suppose we could put that out into the community and see if there's someone who's had experience doing that. I mean, do you think it would help, Mary Ann?
I think we need to take a look what happens with these hobbies and where we go with them.
Okay.
And I agree with Amy, I think the depth of some of these grant applications, you need multiple people.
Right.
I look at the USDA, which we've applied for a number of times over the years, that it's so award or something like that, and the main competition is pretty significant.
Right.
And again, it's a territory which requires some serious expertise.
Okay. Well, and I'm hopeful, knock on wood, that we will get some of this infrastructure money. I mean, we weren't expecting that when we went into this, so we'll see what happens. Okay, so now we're moving into with Ocean and Crocker and Surtex. How can BIPCO fit into this picture as well? Because you guys have the resources and you've kind of started, you know, you're settled now, more settled now, let's put it that way. And I don't know if you guys envision anything like down the road. I mean, would Crocker kind of step away at some point, or maybe they would work in conjunction with you guys? I mean, do you have any thoughts on that, Barbara, or Jack?
Want me to start?
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense
I got
to
some-
us.
Some thoughts that more directly like no planners to start. And then, I think we all need to put our heads together to see how we can help with further, operation of the system. To start for no-brainers, the Surtex, not the operations piece, but the putting the fiber back up and, carpool accidents and broken poles. It would make our life easier if we did that work for Surtex.
Right.
We already have to do it with Verizon. If we have to have a third party do it, it's gonna make life more difficult. So I would definitely be willing to entertain a contract to maintain the fiber cable and the carrier wire and stuff like that. Our guys don't have the expertise to do the operational piece. Those little boxes that you open up, the magic boxes, we wouldn't even know where to start. But, we can potentially talk about that now. But
Okay.
for starters, I think, if you could work us into your plans in terms of bringing fiber back up, because as well as I do, as soon as you install something, it's gonna fall down,
Right.
whether it's a window or something like that.
So is that something we need to talk about now with the contract that we're negotiating with Surtex, or is that something we just address down the road? Or have you already discussed that with Surtex a little bit?
It's certainly something that we have all informally contemplated as we're putting these contracts together. And that's why I mentioned that fiber maintenance, one we're dealing with last, because it's pretty easy. relatively to the others. And we want to have a better sense of what the right structure might be when we get to that, whether it is a short-term contract with Certex, who may then sub a lot of their work out to the utility district, or whether they get cut out entirely and the town engages the utility district directly. I think there's a lot of flexibility and a lot of room for how that comes together in a way that works for everyone, provides some learning curve, and gets that work done most efficiently. So I think that one will come together naturally.
Okay,
If that makes sense.
yeah. So Jeff, what else?
Well, that's the easy discussion.
Yeah.
Because I think we have talked about it before, and it's stuff that we're equipped and capable to deal with right now with today's resources. Down the road, who knows, we've got some staff, we've got some facilities, we've got, the infrastructure, obviously, so I don't know how we would, look at it going further, but we can have those discussions. I think some point, needs to get involved and continue ownership, if the town wants to continue to own it, we can have all those discussions, I think.
Okay,
And are you looking at the work that, obviously it wouldn't be the Oshin part of it, the transport of the
fiber.
internet fiber, but it would be more of the Crocker stuff that they're with it, that we were thinking of down the line that possibly Bibco could take over so that's what you're talking about down the line, the front end stuff, the billing stuff, and being the more of the internet service provider.
I have to do a lot of looking into that. It's pretty complicated. It's something that we're familiar with, but we have people on the island office, so if it helps. If somebody on the island wants to take that on, why don't we else?
Yeah, I just believe keeping things local. I mean, I kind of think that we should build something that keeps our your business viable and the town people viable instead of subbing it out to people who would come from the mainland. So I'm all in favor of that. And although I understand that now might not be the time, but down the line, but at least we all know where we have to go, and what this will entail.
I think to keep the system up and running, I mean, my experience is when you have a fiber break, it's easy to get the fiber back up in the air and get things back where it belongs, but you don't restore service until you have crews that would actually come and splice the fiber and do all that other work that Surtex is going to do. In order to maintain some level of great service, I think we're going to have to eventually go down that road, and maybe we supplement, the Bitco crews with a couple of fiber splicers or some technicians that are more Surtex, trained. I think it's going to be really hard to provide good service with off-island Surtex. Surtex's plans are in terms of having people housed here, but in order to get the lights back on or the servers back together, you're going to have people here. And the one thing that's going to drive people even more nuts than power outage is the internet outage.
That's right. Yeah. So you're thinking, so the idea would be to train people on island, and your manpower would become more diverse, not just power expertise, but internet fiber expertise as well. So that would grow an industry kind of, or a position on Block Island for people to go and get into too, or to apply for. So I like that because that keeps, our young people like having a job, or, or somebody can go into that kind of work here.
We're better suited to do that now than the internet service provider. Internet service providers is a little bit more, again, I don't know where to start right now. But if we started off with the maybe subcontractor with Surtex to put the fiber back up, get it down to the new poles, and then maybe that can, blend into us being the operator someday.
Yeah, like if you could shadow, like a time period where you would shadow them in some respect to see what it entails, and then retrain or train or hire people that could do that kind of work. Yeah.
Stop them, train them. Logically, it would be somebody from Surtex.
Yeah.
But we've got the truck days, we've got trucks, we've got that type of equipment, so there's no sense in doing it.
Yeah.
I don't, so the way it would actually work is you have a physical office, Verizon has their office right across the street, and you have a Surtax office. I think there's some commonalities that would lend well to Surtax and that they'll become.
Mhm.
For us to do it all. But that's gonna come with lots of discussions with our board, discussions with our regulators, because we are regulated like the town, so we can work through that.
Right.
I don't see that being an issue. But it's something that we should at least continue conversations,
Mhm. And it's been modeled other places, like, did you come from a place where you did that when you were doing your power up north? Were you connected with people doing fiber?
We are always separate entities, but right now, in the co-ops across the country, I guess probably half of them now are running fiber or doing broadband. It's actually become a very big part of the co-op world.
Yeah.
It wasn't that way 10 years ago.
Right.
One of the reasons is we have access to good funding. It sounds like you have access to good funding, probably maybe better than ours, but one of the reasons across the country is that they have good access to good funding.
Well, it's interesting you talk about other towns and whatnot, because I know Ray's been looking and contacting a lot of the towns that we originally contacted when we started this project to see how they were doing it and what they were happy with, what they weren't happy with. So he's started researching, are they tying into some local municipality to see if it works for them? I mean, not that every situation is equal, but I think it's a good idea that we follow back up with these people to see kind of what they wish they did, what they didn't do, and, see where there might be glitches in it. Just something to kind of talk about at some point.
There is some good success stories out there, and
Yeah.
also some horror stories.
Right.
Burlington, Vermont was a horror story.
Which,
Burlington, Vermont.
They had a
Burlington.
department and they ran their own fiber project. And I think they eventually went bankrupt and it was a horrible
Oh,
situation.
No, we don't want that.
But there are a lot of success stories out there. I think if we did it right, we could be one of the success.
well, it's encouraging to me to hear your open-mindedness about this, Jeff. And I've been communicating with 4 different towns, 2 in Massachusetts, 1 in Vermont, 1 in Maine, and they're all different. Every one of them is structured differently and have their own nuances. And so I'm encouraged that, because we have walked our own path here with Amy's help, and we have made decisions as a town as far as ownership and how we're going to price it out. And so I think this will all fall into place. We take it step by step. We don't have to agree on anything. It's not imminent that we have to make decisions on this, but like you say, it's certainly going to be important that we have technician on the island. And it's better to have them working for you and the island people rather than have Surtax have to house somebody over here. So that makes sense. And as far as the billing goes, whatever Crocker does can be, some of these towns have saved a lot of money by having their own operating structure to remove from Crocker, some of their expenses that they would be paying them. So I think it's going to fall into place as long as we study it and pursue it.
So I think the first pieces that we're talking about make the most sense. If you drive around the island after a windstorm, you see Verizon lines hanging all over the place. And they usually stay there for a few days if we don't come down and visit them. So I think that piece is easy. The rest of it, like you say, right, I think it'll just fall into place.
I think so.
Apprehension right now, that the internet service providers, I know nothing about. That's not to say that we can't learn. The one thing that the utility district doesn't know is service. Service is water, electric, so it can be anything. We just happen to be only a power business. I think our board, Barbara's vision, at least in mine too, is that the utility district is originally formed to be a utility district. That may be more than just power.
Yeah.
If If you have good customer service staff and you've got infrastructure to house trucks and people, it makes the most sense.
Right, and we have a very sophisticated building
Yeah,
program.
and it has capabilities to do broadband, I'm told. I don't know much about it, but we should research.
Right. Amy, did you want to say something?
Yeah, so we've talked about the technician end, sort of the end, things fall down and break and need to be touched, and that being an easy piece, and then not wanting to dive right into being an ISP or a network operator. And that's why we made those longer contracts, because we knew nobody wanted to, nobody should start with that. But there's another piece that I don't think we've said out loud. We've talked about the office end, but it's the administration of the entirety of the call it the broadband district or the utility district, the management of those contracts and the management of those relationships with the ISP and the network operator, and all the back end stuff that a superintendent or CEO needs to be handling. And if there's a part that I'm concerned about somebody doing, that's it. And again, I think there are some areas that are natural and easy to step into if the utility district were interested, and some might be a little more challenging, but that part of management.
One of the reasons that the cooperatives are taking on the broadband responsibilities of rural areas across the country is exactly because of that. It's not always easy to bring qualified staff to your rural areas. Sometimes I think that the possibilities are endless. We just need to, I think, get more involved. To date, my only involvement has been thinking the make ready work.
You did it so well.
We're not done yet. Or at least Verizon's not done.
Well, and I think also having the community anchor institutions was great because it kind of gave us the testing ground, even though funding came from different places. But I just think we're in a good spot. I hope. It's been a long time.
And we haven't even had a need or anything for the anchor institutions to, there hasn't been any breakdown or any that I know of, unless you know of anything, but I think that it's been pretty smooth.
It has been pretty smooth. It's not that there's not management and maintenance of that network, that's happening in the background. And the good news is that if nobody on the end user side sees it, then we're doing a good job.
Yeah, you are. That's good.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think just to expand on that a little bit, I think the customer service piece, the office piece, I think is something that we definitely need to talk about more, because I'm just back to this conversation I had with AT&T on Monday. I got so frustrated I found out we gave up. The one thing that we want to make sure all the time is that people on the island, they have a problem talking to somebody on the island, or back at the call center that's qualified to talk to it. So I'm excited to think about the possibilities again. We just keep having these conversations. Make sure we involve our board with your board, so I don't get out ahead of myself. I think there's some opportunity. We're definitely here to help. I mean, we are one of the anchor institutions now. I am the only residents on that high-speed internet. Power.
That's
I
so
wish
fun.
everybody had. It's fantastic.
Nice.
Yeah, it is great. All day when I go home, it feels slow. But that's the thing, we're getting spoiled. Like, we have to have customer service when it goes, because some people might move here because of it. We said we would have it, and so we have to maintain it and keep it going. And somebody at 2 o'clock in the morning, the power company comes through for us. So like, we want to have that same level of care. Yes.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, discuss end user education and outreach. I think at this point, we're still not quite
We're
there
still
yet.
building the
We're
ship.
trying to, yeah, exactly. Because then we're gonna have to tell like everybody how to run it. I mean, I still have a hard time with this smart TV thing going on, so.
Can I just ask,
Yeah.
you, how are the finances and everything? I'm sure you're keeping track of that and everything. Are we in good, is our projection?
Running out of money?
Because we don't want any surprises that we have to ask the town for or anything. I mean, not to put you on total spot, but it seems like we're.
Sure, and you're going to be dissatisfied with my answer. And it's a little uncharacteristic, but I don't have an answer for you today. And one of the reasons is because we are just in the final engineering stages of revising all of those initial preliminary prints into a final so that we actually know how many feet of fiber we're stringing and how many drops and how many hub connections and how many service locations will actually be in this network. And that's been a pretty intensive engineering redesign throughout the last 6 months, I would say. And that comes with a whole set of schedule of values that we're carving out and trying to pick apart and get a total.
So we're seeing if our estimates.
See where we are.
Yeah, I guess we'll find out.
And so much of that was driven as well by the number of subscribers, because the difference between having 600 subscribers or service locations and 1,400 makes a big difference. In terms of your total bill, but also how many of those are being paid for by the town with our single drop policy and how many are being picked up by the customer because they've wanted to add some on their own. So all of those nuances are just filtering through right now.
Well, I'm glad you're thinking of it.
We're on it. I just don't have a bottom number.
Everybody see that we are, I know that you wouldn't let the numbers get out of hand, but I'm just curious, so that's great.
So I think we were under the impression, I'm moving on to the Mission Broadband Weekly updates, that Mission sent you a big update and you in writing, and then you presented it, Marianne, to the town council. And I was hoping there was something in writing so that we could just get a copy of that, but Amy tells me everything's verbal, you meet with them and everything. But I think because we haven't met as often as we used to, I think now that we can probably meet more often. I mean, I'm not thinking every week or every 2 weeks, but we're obviously going to talk about our annual schedule next. This has been great. This has been informative today, especially.
Could you come to our meeting? Would we have a standing, even I don't think we can have another board member, but I feel like you're as important as us.
Yeah, if you include me, I think you've got my email address.
Yep.
If you include me on the invites, I'll make a commitment to be here and at least get more involved and learn more about it.
Okay, or even Barbara or you or somebody come when it's convenient, if that works. That'd be greatly appreciated. Okay, go ahead.
Just because you made reference to it, but for anyone who didn't have the conversation you and I had, you can get that monthly update that Marianne provides to the council is part of the town council's packet for the third Wednesday meeting. And so that's always going to be on Clerkbase. And it includes a timeline that's revised monthly and some key milestones and where those are in the process. So anyone can go out and grab that at any point, either for the prior month or when it's released, usually just before that mid-month meeting.
Or you could go to every town council meeting.
Or you could go to every town council meeting, which would be great for all of us. But that's where to find the written documentation. As you said, the meetings that the project manager has with the town manager are conference calls, and then I meet with them basically daily, sometimes more than once a day.
Okay,
So,
all right. So I think, go ahead, Ray.
So Amy, I understand that Mission Broadband is going to be at the town council meeting on Monday night and address the council, give them an update. Is that a normal, let's say, is that a regular meeting with them, or have they been out here before to do that?
they have been out regularly. I would say once a month, they're out here. But they have not addressed the council, I don't believe, since we started the island-wide project. Marianne, I don't know if there's anything you want to add?
No, there was scheduled slated to be out here this week anyway, next week anyway, and, we said, we got the ocean contract down, and I said, gee, we had some specific questions at the last couple of council meetings, would they like to come, and they were willing to come. To the meeting and go through the council, and I think periodically you need to do that.
Great.
Well, when are you guys I can't go on Monday night, so it will be.
No, but you could get it on YouTube.
Well, after the fact.
I'm gonna be out of town, but
I don't know when we're
I
leaving.
can't be
but I
here
can-
Monday.
Well, I mean, just as long as we listen to it, I think it's
Okay,
fine. I don't think
that's
we have to physically be there. I think we've got Amy.
Well, there shouldn't be any major
Okay, all
bonds
right.
beyond
Yeah.
what I told you. I mean, there may be little nuances that I've missed, but.
I don't think we need to be there poking
Okay, fine.
thorns at Mission Broadband. Yeah. Go ahead.
Just before you get to your next item, I just wonder if you could say anything about whether or not the work on the undersea cable is affecting this project at all. And if so, how, and whether.
That's an Amy question. It's not, I can't answer that.
I mean,
I hope not.
There's tons of rumors flying out there, so I'm, come here.
The big question, Kim, is what work?
And there's a lot of work happening on this project.
Not yet, but probably. I don't know.
I'm gonna try to stay in a party line here. Because I got a lot of feelings, but whenever there is ultimately a cable splice, there will be a service interruption for anybody who is using fiber. That's why we were hoping it would be done early before the network was live, because there would be minimal disruption. The further out that is pushed, the more people will be impacted. And so if there comes a point where the island-wide network is live and that cable is going to be spliced, there will be a service disruption.
That's good. I mean, that's very understandable and a very clean answer to people are asking me about.
Can I jump in?
Sure.
Just so you know, National Grid will be at the meeting Monday, as well as Mission Broadband, and I want that I want to come out at that meeting, so everyone's on the same page.
Maybe
We
we should don't
understand.
get too bogged down.
So everyone understands that when we do that,
Yeah.
and whenever that happens, that if there's some folks that have internet, they will pay without internet for a period of time, that at this point, we're not going to. And we want to make that.
Yeah.
That's a very understandable answer.
Yeah. Well,
Appreciate it.
I mean, we're,
And they're, right now, they said they'd be back from weather or like the spring. Did they give us an?
I'll tell you what, listen to the.
Okay, all right.
They have told me, the meeting I just said, after 2:28, that's when I found out that they, were demobilized.
Uh-huh.
They told me, they told everyone when they came to March.
Mhm.
So let's see what, I assume they're going to say the same thing on Monday night. But I think they need to come out, because I have a few more questions that I would like to follow up with them. But I think it's best to do that at the council meeting, where everyone has, I'm sure the council will. Also have
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, March is not a great time for anything at all.
I can speak a little bit to our involvement with that. I think before they remobilize in March, we're gonna have a conversation with the regulators about then bringing our equipment.
That was one of the questions I was gonna ask them when you specifically, because I want them to say publicly.
I voiced my concern last May to the regulators. The chair of the commission was actually out for a meeting with us, and I voiced my concern a second time. And if they don't come back with lift barges, the same type of equipment that Worsted had, they're never gonna get the job done, so.
And that's one of my first,
Yeah.
we discussed that briefly at the meeting, but again, I want to ask that on Monday night, so everyone can get their response.
And keep in mind, the more time that they're here, it's gonna add cost, and Block Island picks up about 8% of that total cost, so. We all need to just realize that it's not really a joke, it's more of a cost driver for them.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure.
I mean, Warren, that's right.
So the only thing left for us to talk about, unless someone else has something to say, is to set our annual meeting schedule for next year, which is soon. Does this time of day still work for everybody?
Yes, 3:30 works for me, because I'll be late if I can do that. for you.
Yes, it works for me.
So I think at this point, we probably aren't going to meet till January. Right? Do you
Right,
feel we
yes.
need another meeting this month? Probably not. So do you want to meet on like once a month? So do you want to start on January 6th? When is vacation? I don't have kids anymore, so what?
It's done by that time, January 6th.
So 6 or 13, does anybody? Amy, what about you? Since. Any preference? Jeff and Barbara? Okay. Okay,
Whatever day you guys
The 15th is probably better, that first week after, especially.
okay, so why don't we start with the 13th, Jill, and then we'll go every,
January 13th.
yep. So 1, 2, 3, and it would be the 10th of February. When's vacation?
It's not till the 14, it starts getting a little weird, but yeah, around the 20, the last 2 weeks of February, so we're good with.
With the 10th?
Yep.
1, 2, 3. 10th of March,
Okay.
and then the 7th of April? Oh
Yeah.
my God,
So
when's Easter? When's that vacation? Do you guys do
Yeah,
vacation?
we have a vacation on the 14th, the 15th, 16th.
Oh.
It's the last 2 weeks.
So that works. What about your kids, Amy?
that's fine.
Okay, and then 1, 2, 3,
Did you say April 7th?
April 7th.
So we're not doing the second Thursday?
Well, we started with,
Yeah, if we just follow the pattern, that's probably better, huh? Yeah, just do the second Thursday of
every month,
every month.
okay?
And then, so that's the February.
Go ahead.
The second Thursday of the month is when land trust meets. I don't know if that's gonna create a scheduling issue.
Yeah, especially if we want you here to come or somebody, all right.
Well, so then why don't we go back to every,
It doesn't matter from my point of view, someone else can go, but I don't know what it means for the town hall schedule.
What time is your meeting?
4 o'clock.
4. Doesn't work, does it?
Kim, do you have a recommendation?
No, I was just filling in my schedule earlier today and I knew the point.
Okay. So do you want to go back to every 4 weeks, starting on the 13th of January?
Well, that's the second Thursday. which is-
Yeah, not calling it the second Thursday, just go 4 weeks after that. I don't care. I live here. I'm fine.
I would really prefer a pattern.
Okay.
I just, I think it's a lot easier.
So is that going to interfere with the land trust then, meetings?
So what you've been doing, I looked at the pattern of the schedules, it's, you have been, you had set twice a month. And, your second meeting was the 4th Thursday in every month. Which is how you can look at this. Yeah, and so, we have a proposed schedule for Thursday every month.
Yeah, okay, so you have, Jill made a proposed schedule for us, we don't have the thing,
Oh, I didn't see this.
okay.
And the link one side with, any other
Anything
counties.
else?
So you check that it doesn't coincide, so, okay, instead we'll just change it to 3:30.
It also doesn't, coincide with any holidays except that November,
17th,
November was moved.
because of,
So it doesn't coincide with Thanksgiving.
okay,
So the 4th Thursday of the month is the utility district regular meeting. It's at 4 o'clock.
Oh, yeah, no, then we can't do that, because we want you guys
So
to
that's third
be my
Wednesday.
friends.
I mean, third Wednesday.
What about the 3rd Thursday?
that's the, starts the, so then that would be the 20th. 17th,
If you say you want to do the third Thursday, I can just create a calendar for you if you want to do that.
okay, and then who's going to check it to make sure it's not a conflict?
I can send it to you.
Okay, that'd be great, and we're going to change to 3:30, not 3.
Okay.
Yeah, please.
Okay, so then, the first, just so I know, January's meeting would be
The 20th.
20th, okay.
Does that work for you too? You're just always here, okay. Okay, so It is now 4:17 and I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Well, thanks, power company people,
Yeah,
utility district people, and thanks for being, willing to work with us.
thank you, you too. So Amy? Rick Batchelder is like, oh, turn.